everyone, my name is Anna. I'm a fantasy writer who sometimes makes videos. Welcome to May. We're gonna do a bit of a vlog this month, but it's not gonna be a regular writing vlog. For the rest of the year, my main MO is revising this. My big first draft of my fantasy novel, and taking it to draft 2. Before I actually dive in and start rewriting this, I really want to take my time, think carefully about the things that I want to accomplish in the next draft and how best to accomplish it. So I'm taking 2 months, May and June, to revision game plan basically, and I have a whole bunch of stuff that I want to get done and feel settled, so that includes things like world building and character profiles and timelines, as well as just compiling all my notes and thoughts about what I wrote. We're kicking off the first half of this revision prep project, and here are the main things I wanted to get done this month. That included, first of all, just reading this book. Second, I wanted to do a synopsis, make notes about what happens in every single scene, so that I can analyze what scenes are working, what scenes I don't need anymore, if scenes need to move around. I just wanted to have a very boiled down look at these 90,000 words. And last, in the month of May, I want to read a lot of craft books. So I think I'll probably reread some old favorites, and I also want to read the second volume of On Writing and Worldbuilding by Timothy Hickson. I'm just going to take you through this vlog week by week, and we'll see what we can get done. I'm just kind of going with the flow, being conscious about spending my time wisely on this revision project, but you know, if things have to shuffle around, that's okay. And yeah, wish me luck. So it's the first week of May, and the first thing I need to get done this week is reread my draft. I'm going to try and read it really quickly in 2 or 3 days if I can, and just compress it. That's a mistake I've made in the past with rereading drafts. I think I really need to just do it all in one go so that it's all in my memory and I can stay immersed in it. It's so much easier to make solutions when you have a whole picture of the book in your head at the same time. So, last night I read Act 1, and it wasn't that horrible. Like, it definitely feels like there's stuff missing. Subplots, who is she, don't know her, so it's very much just A plot, A plot, A plot, speeding all the way through. There aren't really a lot of moments of rest, it's just plot points. Like, it just feels like you just zip right through the main plot. There's a lot of layers of things to be added, but the scenes themselves I really like. I thought that I was gonna be going through this reread and I would get this feeling of dread and doom and like, oh god, I have so much to do, and it would be a very overwhelming experience. It's actually kind of the opposite, at least for the first half, the first act, which is, you know, the most polished of any part of the book. It's been rewritten the most times. The feeling is, I have something here that I can work with. I have something that's rough, but that I can polish, and I can already see in my mind how I would do it. And I'm already rewriting passages in my head and saying, okay, I'm going to move this piece here, take that out. And it's such a relief to reread it and already know that my brain has solutions. All the numbers and pieces are flying, but in a good way, not in a confused, overwhelmed way. My mind is kind of beautiful minding it in a way that's very exciting. My initial impression is, thanks past me for doing this draft, first of all. Now I feel like I get to have fun, and my next rewrite is going to be all about taking each scene and sitting down with it, thinking about where is the scene set, how can I use interesting set pieces, cancel out the white room syndrome, how can I just really up the immersion in this next draft, which is what I love. I love revising my work more than anything. I think rewriting and strengthening a bare bones scene is so fun. I want to get in there and start rewriting, but that's a July task. We're not rewriting right now, I'm just taking notes. So what I am doing is I'm using this notebook that I made last year, and I intended to do this in between my 0 draft and my first draft, but it was too messy and required such a big total rewrite that this wasn't really a feasible system, but I think now is the right time to use it. It's just an old notebook I had, and I split it up into a couple sections. Breathe. So excited I'm out of breath. This is something that I learned from Susan Dennard, but she splits up her revision notes into different sections: plot problems, character problems, and setting problems. And so as you're reading your draft, take note of things that fall into these different categories. You're not implementing anything right now, you're just taking notes on problems that you notice, fixes that come to mind. And so that's been a nice way for me to organize it. And honestly, so far a lot of stuff is still falling into plot, which I was hoping the plot would hopefully be mostly fine. I am taking a lot of plot notes, but they're small. It's not like whole chapters need to be taken out, or this direction doesn't work anymore, or we need to completely reconfigure some plot beats. That's not really it. It's more like loopholes, plot holes that needs to be fixed, tiny little things that need to be sewn up. So at least in the first act. Second and third act, there will be some larger pieces moving there. Like I said, subplots need to be existing. It's just been such a cool experience to read it from the beginning very quickly, because I haven't looked at Act 1 since last spring. I was rewriting this part in March, April, May of last year. I felt like I knew it pretty well, but as I got further into it, I kind of forgot the order that the scenes go in, so I kind of got to read it as a reader and wondering, oh, what happens next? And then I start the next scene and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, alright. And it's so nice to not remember the words as I'm reading them and just kind of see it for what it is. The thing I was most nervous about for Act 1 was the romance arc, because I remember it feeling very rushed when I did the previous draft, and it definitely is. Like, it definitely needs to be filled in a lot more for it to be believable. But there are a lot of moments in there that I was like, that's really cute, and that really just like, I don't know how to explain it. There are just a lot of moments where I was just like swooning over my own characters and really liking how some things were executed. So yeah, pleasantly surprised by the romance and pleasantly surprised by everything. I mean, don't get me wrong, the writing on a line level is not what I want it to be. It needs another line rewrite. A lot of it is, you know, drafted words where I'm saying the same thing 3 different ways, and then in revision I'll pick the one best way to say it. Sentence structure, I'm repeating the same sentence structure over and over and over again. There's lots of info dumping. On a line level, yeah, not the best, but I'm really happy with the plot and the world building that I did get into the previous draft. So Act 1 gets a like happy B+. Maybe just a B. Guys, it is the end of week 1. It's the end of the first week of May, and yeah, I just wanted to check in on how the reread went. I finished it. I read it in 3 sittings pretty much. I read Act 1 in 1 sitting, Act 2 in 1 sitting, and Act 3 in 1 sitting, and just tried to bust through it as quickly as possible. And wow, I really don't know how I feel. I think maybe the overwhelm is starting to kick in. Yeah. Parts of Act 2 and definitely Act 3 are very underwritten. The plot isn't quite right. Or I need to rationalize some of the things that happen and do some work earlier on in the book to make everything make sense, which that's to be expected. Yeah, it's just like, ooh. For the most part, I made myself write a zero draft of every single scene and I did not skip anything. And I'm so glad for that. That would be like my number one piece of advice, because I got so many little details out of all of those scenes that I, wouldn't have otherwise. And so many more little things to play with that I can foreshadow. I have a pretty good idea of how I can fix this stuff, but it's just overwhelming. Yeah, so there's like the overwhelm on the story structure part, and then there's the overwhelm on the line level part, where I'm thinking to myself like, okay, I zero drafted all of these words and they basically all need to get tossed. There are not very many good sentences in here that I foresee getting kept all the way through all the future versions of the book. And then I've got to go back and rewrite it in a way that is exciting and clever and all of that. So, yeah, I'm excited to rewrite. I love rewriting scenes, like when you get a chunk of 1,200 words and you're like, okay, I know what happens, I know the outline, I know the plot beats, I know the dialogue I need to say, and now I just need to make it good. That's my favorite part of writing. I love revising, but just the pure amount of it that I have to do is overwhelming. I caught myself this week in a lie. I caught myself telling a lie to myself. And that lie was, the next draft needs to do everything. The next draft needs to be as perfect as you can make it. The next draft needs to accomplish all of these things and fix all these problems and be well written and, strive for perfection. And I don't think I should do that. I don't think I can do that, so why give myself that bar if I can't meet it? Every draft gets you closer and closer and closer to a final product that you're happy with. And I know that I'm going to do many, many, many drafts. I'm not just going to do one more draft. So why am I putting all this pressure on myself saying the next draft has to be it? The next draft has to be the best version. That's not true. I'm still going to get things wrong in the next draft, and so on and so on and so on, and the revising continues. So I think I need to fix my mindset a little bit and kind of take a little bit of my revising brain and a little bit of my it's okay, you're drafting, have fun brain, and just put them together and, not be afraid to keep trying new stuff, and just accept that this is the first time I've ever written a book, revised a book, and it's going to be a process. I can do my best on this next draft, but I don't have to hit perfection. If I could put anything on the wall in my office above my computer right now, it would say, you do not have to hit perfection. Even though I'm revising and I'm trying real hard, you do not have to hit perfection in this draft. That is something that will evolve over time with many drafts. So that's the mindset shift that I'm having, and trying to go into this rewrite with less pressure on myself, because I can feel myself going, nervous, don't know if I can do this. You do not have to hit perfection. The other thing I was going to check in about was all the notes that I took. I didn't take as many as I thought I would. To be honest, I didn't take any setting notes, and I took 1 page of character notes. And I think that's because for setting and character, it's more like those things just aren't there yet. White room syndrome is very much a thing. I need to characterize the setting so much more, and basically every level. There aren't any, express problems. It's just do a better job of using your character and setting. Instead of trying to attack everything on one rewrite, I'm wondering if maybe I should do passes and do 1 pass for setting and focus on, the white room syndrome, the world building and everything like that, and do 1 pass for character and making sure that my heroine's character is solid, and then doing a pass for my hero's character, and then doing a pass for my villain, and just really zeroing in on those items one at a time, instead of like having everything flying around in my brain saying, oh, I need to do this, oh, I need to do this. Still toying around with how I'm gonna actually start this whole process. That about wraps up how the reread went. Welcome to the messy kitchen angle. I'm on a quick lunch break from work and wanted to film this clip at the same time, so multitask. Luke and I went to a Vietnamese restaurant last night for dinner, and we thought it was just gonna be like a counter cafe kind of deal, just like in and out. And it turned out that they were only doing a 4-course meal menu. And we got suckered in and we said, okay, let's do it. So we actually sat down and ended up having a really fancy dinner. And both of us were so full that we felt ill. And we ended up taking home a ton of food. So that's what I'm having for lunch today. Okay, so that's in the oven. As far as the prep project, and for week 2, I have 2 things I want to do, and that is to start reading some craft books and start my synopsis. It's Monday and like my brain is bouncing around to all the things that I feel like I need to be doing right now. So I feel a little disorganized, but hopefully starting these 2 things will calm me down and just help me keep my blinders on a little bit. So for the craft books, this week I want to read the Timothy Hickson books. There's a volume 1 and a volume 2. I've read volume 1 before, and I took a lot of notes when I read that, so I think I'm just going to read through my notes because I kind of wrote down all the things that were most pertinent to my current book and were most interesting, so I'm just going to review my notes on volume 1 and then read volume 2. His books are just so tailored to writing fantasy. Even though some chapters, may not be as applicable, they always spark ideas, things to help you specify your world building and make it feel more unique. And then the other thing that I'm starting is the synopsis. And I really wanted to start this in Scrivener. I've been thinking about moving from Dabble to Scrivener for this draft. But I refuse to buy Scrivener until I have a discount code. I think I'm going to use that as a bribe for me to win Camp Nano in July. So I'm not going to buy it right now, even though I really, 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 really want to. And I'm just going to start this synopsis in Google Docs probably. I'll just break it down by chapter and do a bullet for each scene under each chapter. This synopsis will just be a picture of what the draft is right now. And then hopefully in the future, I can really retool it and start inserting things and thinking about where my subplots can go and adding on top of it all the things that I want my next draft to accomplish. So this is just going to be my baseline, what we've got so far, and hopefully it shouldn't take too long. I don't know, famous last words, but okay, that's the plan for week 2. Hi everyone, it's Thursday on week 2, and this week is going by really fast. And my goals for this week were to do my synopsis and to start reading some craft books. And I started on the craft books first, and then quickly put it down. Starting the craft books was very overwhelming really quickly. I was reading over my notes from volume 1 on writing and world building, and also starting to read volume 2. The nature of reading those books is that your brain starts to fill up with ideas and what ifs, and it can be really anxiety inducing if you have a lot of ideas very suddenly but you don't feel like you have a good place to put them. So I kind of felt like I needed to do my synopsis first, and then read craft books and idea generate and world build, and then write in my synopsis where all of that needs to go. So that when I have an idea, a good kernel, I don't lose it. I have the idea and then I put it into the synopsis, and the synopsis becomes my roadmap for the next draft, basically. And also all the notes that I did on my reread, I will put into my synopsis. Hi, editing Anna here to interrupt for a second because I'm being a little bit of a dum-dum. Throughout this whole thing, I refer to what I'm doing as a synopsis, and the further I got into it, the more I realized that I was not really writing a synopsis, I was writing a reverse outline. So every time I say synopsis, just in your head, just replace that with reverse outline. As far as I understand it, a synopsis should be like a 1 to 2 page document that summarizes in paragraph form the events of your story. and gives everything away and, you know, just kind of sums up the book. And what I've done is made detailed notes for each scene in order throughout the book, and that's really a reverse outline. Especially as I start to add more things to it and notes and questions to myself, it's really not a synopsis anymore. It's a reverse outline. Okay, that's all. Goodbye. I put the craft books down and started working on the synopsis. So I'm going through the book chapter by chapter, and I'll show you what it looks like. Here's what I have so far, and I put this into wingdings so that you can't read it. Sorry, it looks crazy. But here's what I've got so far. I've gotten through maybe roughly half the book. So I have it broken down into chapter, and then there's a bullet point for each scene within that chapter. And I basically just write what happens, maybe a little bit about my character's emotional arc, if there's a turn or a development in how they're feeling about something. And yeah, just trying to make some very basic notes. The blue is new plot ideas that I had as I am doing this reread, or as I'm doing the synopsis and I'm noticing stuff that needs to be streamlined, scenes that can be cut. I'm making notes to myself in blue for edits, basically. So it's going pretty good. It's quickly becoming a very long document. Here's where I left off, so I've got these chapters left to do. I think maybe I'll make blue like my plot color, and then I'll pick another color for character and another character for setting, and just keep adding my notes in this fashion, so then I have a very clear outline of how to approach every single scene in the book when I do my next rewrite. So I hope that makes sense. I hope the wingdings don't completely throw this off, but yeah, that's what I'm doing this week. Synopsis is done just in the nick of time. So my week 2 goal of getting that done is finished, and that feels great. And it is 11 pages, which is a lot longer than I thought it was going to be, considering there's just one bullet for each scene. And yeah, I kind of kept on with the blue being plot stuff that I had to fix, or ideas I had for new plot stuff to put in my next draft. And then there's also a few orange bits. And orange is, I wrote something and now I don't know what to do with it. I don't know if I'm going to keep it. I don't know where to move it or how to work it into the plot anymore, and it kind of just doesn't fit. Orange are like the parts where I really don't know what's going on. Yeah, at first I thought, oh, I wish I had like made all my notes while I was reading it for the first time, but I'm glad that I just, you know, on the first reread just read it like a reader and just experienced it for what it was. And then the second time, you know, went through again and just kind of reminded myself of what order everything happens in, cause and effect, what leads to what, and I think doing it twice in a row, rapid fire, was really helpful. Now I feel like I know my book a lot better, I remember everything, I know the beats, and so I think that, especially me, I don't have a very good memory, my short-term recall is pretty bad, so reading it twice and doing active notes on it really helps cement everything in my memory, and so now I feel like it really lives in here now. So I think that was good. So far I'm 68 pages into this book, volume 2, and I really liked the fight scenes chapter. There was a lot of stuff in there that I hadn't heard before. There was some good advice about sentence structure, but not just, writing short sentences, but more about the beats within sentences. So that was interesting. Do recommend. This is the intro for week 4 of the prep project. And I know what you're thinking. Girl, you cut your bangs too short. I agree. We're just gonna roll with it and it's fine. It's fun. I spent all last week basically just reading my craft books and making notes. I still have not finished on writing a Worldbuilding volume 2. It is taking me a lot longer than I thought it would to get through it. And I don't want to just only do that again this week. I really want to move on to some other things. So I'm just going to say that craft books are something that I will be doing this whole time during the prep project. I'll keep returning to them and taking notes, etc., etc. Putting craft books aside for the moment, I also really started playing around in Campfire. I saw a really great video that Kieren did on Campfire and it really convinced me to give Campfire a try. And I haven't purchased anything from them yet, I'm just using the free modules to figure out if I like it. As I mentioned earlier in the video, I am thinking about leaving Dabble, which is my drafting software that I use, and going into Scrivener, but I almost think Campfire would be better because I really am going to miss the online piece of things if I go to Scrivener. I really like Dabble because of the fact that it's on the cloud and I can access it anywhere and everything is auto-saved. Everyone who uses Scrivener, I always hear of this awful moment where their work wasn't backed up or the backup got messed up or they lost work or they had to dig in the depths of their Mac to try and find the right file, and that just makes me want to puke. I really think the online component is something that I'm pretty married to at this point, especially since I have a Chromebook, which, as I was researching this, in case anyone didn't know, you can remote desktop from Chrome into a Mac or a PC and use that Mac or PC from your Chrome. So that was going to be my solution if I got Scrivener. Anyway, I'm really liking Campfire. It's a little bit overwhelming, all the modules, and I think some of it leans a little more planning. So I'm paring a lot of things out. So the main focus that I want to continue with this week are my character profiles and backstory notes. So I have one character profile done for my protagonist, Kit, and there are 2 main pieces to this, and I just opened a text box in Campfire for each of those panels and just dumped in my own stuff. First panel is a personality quiz. This is something that I took for my 3 main characters, and I really didn't know my characters very well at all when I took the quiz, and even just having that little idea of what each of them were like, that quiz was scary spot on, and I felt like as I was reading all of their results, I was like, yes, that is what they are. Yes, yes, yes. Felt completely understood, and there's so much good writing fodder in these quizzes, so this one in particular I would highly recommend to writers because it just gives you such a good detailed look about what your character's pitfalls would be, how other people are likely to perceive them, how they would act in their relationships, how they take on their work roles. Like, it's just really good. So I dumped the most applicable things from those results into a panel, and then in the second panel I've done Liselle Sambury's character sheet. She did a really awesome video about her method for creating well-developed characters, and I just can't recommend that video enough. It really made a lot of things click in my head when I watched it for the first time, so I want to make sure to do that for each of my characters as well, because it gives not just a sense of their personality but their arc. So those are the 2 things I'm focusing on for character, and then I also just have a bunch of documents for backstory dump where I am just writing out all the backstory that I know in my head but hasn't been put in the draft. And it is such a relief for me to have a place to put all of that instead of it just kind of floating around in my head, or I have it like written down in random notebooks And now I'm saying like, okay, it's gonna be kind of like a Wikipedia style, like everything is going in here, and I can go back and read it at any time. So that's giving me comfort to know that it's all in one place. So I want to continue with that. So that is the plan for week 4. We will leave May off on a good note and feel very settled in Campfire and ready to take on some more plot and world building stuff next month. And so yeah, I'm very excited. This week I discovered what Art Breeder is, and I'm obsessed. I'm completely obsessed. And I spent way too long on this, so there's that. Okay, voiceover Anna is gonna chime in here to finish up the rest of the vlog, because for week 4 I unfortunately don't have a lot of clips, but rest assured I just kept on reading the craft book when I could and mostly working on my character profiles and all the backstory dump that I was doing in Campfire. I'm sorry I kind of struggled with how to show that to you as far as vlog, because I was doing it all in Campfire and it was all just full of spoilers. So I'm sorry this vlog is a little all over the place and the b-roll isn't quite, spectacular, but I hope you get the gist. I hope it gives you some good ideas at least, and yeah, I think that's about it. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.